Now, today marks World Sleep Day, and research shows that insufficient sleep has a devastating effect on brain health. Now, this means if you sleep for less than 7 hours a night, you are prone to several ailments, including Alzheimer's, depression, bipolar disorder, cancer, and diabetes. For more on this, I'm joined by Joni Peddie, behavioral strategist and an expert on the topic of sleep. Joni, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So how do we ensure quality sleep in today's world, where more often there's a culture of less sleep, which is celebrated as presumed that you're more productive and, than people who have less sleep?
True, there's a culture of less sleep, and there's a culture of wearing lack of sleep or working late as a badge of honor and Paul. So that's why we have World Sleep Day, is for people to really get to know the damage that they're doing and that they do need more sleep. But your question is the how, and the how is an excellent question, and we've really got to think about the fact that it's not a magic wand we need to wave. We actually, if you did one simple thing, the one simple thing I would say to you is use your mobile phone at night to get you into bed earlier, and just try and clock up those 7 hours. So rather than just to wake you up in the morning, use your mobile phone to get you to bed earlier. So that would be the one simple thing. I've got 100 tips, but that's the first one.
Yeah. And how do you then come to a point to discipline yourself? I mean, if you take a look at the media industry and you take, for instance, the lifestyle of a journalist and sleep, there seems to be an imbalance. How do you then go into some form of planning your sleep and the hours of sleep?
That's a good point. I was speaking to another journalist earlier this week, actually, and she, as a single mum, was saying to me, gee, Joni, I've got to get into the studio at 2 a.m. in the morning. I've got a 4 a.m. slot, and I'm a single mum, and I've got to feed my children at night and get them to bed and get myself to bed. And you're so right, and Paul, it's about the planning. So she plans to, feed everybody and obviously get the next day's school lunches done and get herself to bed by 7:30 at night, and then get 5 or 6 hours, not optimal, get to the studio, and then have power naps during the following day. So what are power naps? Those are 20-minute naps or maximum 90-minute naps. In fact, I should say that in a different way, is that there are only 2 time slots for a power nap if you are sleep deprived. So if you're a journalist and you just can't clock up the hours, 20 minutes is what you need, and you set your alarm, you put your phone on the other side of the room, you have a glass of water next to your phone, and you just put an eye mask on so it blocks out the day's sunlight, and you just relax for 20 minutes. So that's a 20-minute power nap. Similarly, you can do that for 90 minutes, but no time in between. You either set your mobile to go off 20 minutes later or 90 minutes later.
What about those who may say, the plan is perfect, but I'm an insomniac?
Yes, good point. I've actually just been certified on a course called Cognitive Behavior Therapy for insomniacs. And it was really interesting. It was through the Royal London Hospital of Integrative Medicine. I was the only non-medical person. I'm not a doctor. And it was magnificent spending 2 days with doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists. And, this insomniac issue that the world faces, we know that 6 to 7 out of 10 people are battling sleep deprivation, and many of them are insomniacs. So if you think you are an insomniac, I would get myself tested. I would go to a GP. I would, look at all sorts of different sleep tests first before I label myself as an insomniac. And then there are some very simple techniques, Paul, in terms of self-managing. So let me give you one of them. You are lying in bed, and it's you got to bed maybe 10 o'clock or 11 p.m., and now it's midnight. Tick, 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 tick. It's 1 a.m., and you're going, oh, sure, but I've got a big day ahead tomorrow, and I cannot get to sleep. And, of course, the cortisol is now shooting through your brain, and you're feeling anxious about being an insomniac, if that's how you've self-classified. Well, the cognitive behavior therapy is to not lie in bed and worry. It's actually to get out of bed, to go to your lounge, have soft lighting on in your lounge, and have a book ready in your lounge to read, And certainly don't go to the fridge and start eating or put on bright lights, or definitely do not watch TV. But just get into like a cozy little spot in your lounge with a blankie on, read a paper book until you feel your head nodding. And then you go back to bed and you try and sleep again. So we really want to make sure that if you're battling with sleep in any way, you must associate bedtime only with sleep. In fact, they're only true insomniacs. Only need to be in their bed when they're sleeping. That is it. They shouldn't even read in their bed at night. They should read, in the lounge, having brushed their teeth, ready for bed, and then as they're getting dozy, go back to their bed. So it's really the self-management of it. And we are the stories we tell ourselves. So we need to kind of be careful how we label ourselves and then look at ways to change our lifestyle habits. Because how many of your listeners are, falling asleep in front of the TV, they then get up, go and brush their teeth, get into bed, and they're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they can't get back to sleep. So there's those kinds of things.
And how does magnesium fall into the picture here as perhaps something beneficial, or if you're lacking, how would you know?
Well, we do know two things. We know that about 70% of people worldwide are lacking magnesium. So I haven't been tested. I know categorically that taking magnesium at night helps me relax and sleep. So you may want to get tested. I take magnesium every single night and it calms me down. I get into that deep, deep, slow wave restorative sleep. And we do know that magnesium is responsible for about 300 to 400 processes in your body. So it's a hugely beneficial element to be taking. And if I go away, I pack that magnesium the first thing into my toiletry bag. I'm really a strong believer in magnesium.
And of course, the lack of sleep has a devastating effect on one's body and lifestyle. I mean, we speak about depression, cancer, diabetes, infertility, heart attacks, weight gain, suicide. It really is a long, frightening list. How does one then ensure that they move away from being associated with those dangers and getting a peaceful night's sleep, or perhaps the power naps you speak to? How does perhaps general lifestyle and the food that we eat also have an impact?
Yes, I mean, there's so many complex factors that intertwine here, aren't there, Paul? So really, if we just take, your comments earlier are so valid that, a lack of sleep affects everything from Alzheimer's to cancer to weight gain. So the first thing we all need to take into account is that none of us are special. None of us are totally unique. We all need that minimum 7 hours per night. So that's the first thing. If you want to avoid any of those dreaded diseases, you have to prioritize your sleep. And even if you're, working in media rooms, you've got to find your way around it and prioritize your sleep. Let me just actually share with you on that factor. I often deliver and co-facilitate talks, Brené Brown talks, for an Australian business, which means that I need to be up at midnight or 12:15 a.m., and I need to be on Zoom at 12:45. So I do wake up sort of 45 minutes beforehand, and I have a shower, put some makeup on, and I jump on my mini trampoline, and I too start working, at 12:45 for 1 a.m. start, Brisbane time, which is 9 a.m. So I know what those hours are like, and I prioritize my sleep to the earlier point. Is I will, a couple of days beforehand, I will change my body clock, also known as your circadian rhythm, and I'll really prioritize sleep by going to bed earlier and earlier. And my family know, obviously it's easier if your children are older. My girls are 22 and 24, so I'm not doing toddlers and, they can make their own supper. But first of all, if you want to avoid dreaded diseases, you want to prioritize 7 hours sleep. The second thing in terms of avoiding dreaded diseases is, you mentioned food. So the closer to nature we eat, the better. And I don't care what kind of, lifestyle habit you have around your food, or whether you're vegetarian or vegan or keto or intermittent faster, all of those things, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying to you, the World Health Organization says a minimum of 5 to 8 portions of fruit and veggies a day. So the good old back to basics, what you can pick off a tree or, dig out the ground. So go back to nature on the eating side. And then for the third leg of what we call the tripod, and a tripod is not going to balance without the 3 legs, is you want that minimum 7 hours, you want to eat close to nature, and then the third part to avoid dreaded disease is exercise. And many people say, gee, Joni, the hours I work, there's no ways I can exercise. Well, I totally disagree. I can also work 18 hours a day, and I will find time for a minimum of a 20-minute walk. So, if you eat well, if you move well, those are 2 really important parts of sleeping well and clocking up those 7 hours.
Wow, thanks. Thanks for that sound advice. I'm tempted to say good night, Joni. Thank you for your time, behavioral strategist and an expert on the topic of sleep, as today marks World Sleep Day.